And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
First line weather graphic for Wednesday morning showing IFR here with that slowly weakening system out here along the west coast there. That extends up to the western Arctic coast, and then mostly VFR out across the Bering Sea and the Aleutians right up into Bristol Bay, IFR Kodiak Island, Kamishak Bay, up into Prince William Sound to some extent, and then eastward there to along the coast of the Panhandle. And for the afternoon, stays VFR, central eastern interior, west side, marginal VFR from the central Arctic coast right on down into western Cook Inlet and Kodiak Island. That extends out into the Bering Sea. St. Lawrence Island, though, becoming VFR. And North Gulf Coast and the Panhandle stays VFR. Some marginal stuff right along the coastline. And then out to the west here, pretty good improvement from morning to afternoon over the Bering Sea with the IFR really fading away. Still some here over the west central Bering, and then also lingering IFR west of Nikolsky here along the Aleutian chain. And then for the Thursday morning time, we've got some IFR right along the central eastern Arctic coast. Marginal VFR now pushing eastward here into the central interior and a little beyond there, at least into the mid-Tanana Valley, extending down into areas of south central Alaska, the Kuskokwim Valley, at least the central and northern areas there, across the Yukon Delta. And then VFR here, Nunivak Island and Kuskokwim Delta down into the Bristol Bay area. Marginal VFR for Kodiak Island, and then marginal for the Pribilofs here at Unalaska Island becomes IFR for Unmak Island. That extends all the way out beyond the Shimiatu area. And now we have a band of IFR here, Prince William Sound, North Gulf Coast, right on down along the coast of the southeastern part of the state. And then for the Thursday afternoon, marginal VFR for the southeast coast into the Gulf, and from about Valdez eastward here into Yakutat there, and some of that marginal VFR up across the Talkeetnas and along the Alaska Range. Otherwise, mostly VFR in the interior, maybe marginal VFR, areas of marginal conditions there for the Brooks Range out to the eastern Arctic coast. From the western coast up there, all the way down to the Alaska Peninsula and Kodiak Island, VFR for the afternoon. Thursday, just a little bit of marginal VFR, mainly on the Bering Strait, catching the western half of the St. Lawrence Island area, and then much of the Bering Sea now, marginal VFR. Still some IFR here, Adak and Atka, out to about Amchitka Island, and then from Kiska westward back to marginal. And moving on to the passes, forecast Anatuvik and Adigan, lower conditions early on, becoming VFR later in the day. And for Lake Clark and Merrill, looks like a pretty marginal flying day for both passes there. And rainy, starting out VFR, trending toward marginal VFR as the day wears on. Windy, VFR. Isabel, same forecast. Mintesta, VFR. And Tanita, VFR as well. Portage, marginal VFR. And Chilkoot and White, another VFR day coming up there. And for the freezing levels, another cold shot here, dropping in toward the Bering Strait, so 2,000 feet up in that area, 8 to 10,000 feet over mainland Alaska, on down the southeast coast there, 12,000 feet up to Kodiak, as well as the central Aleutians here. And icing, look for areas of isolated moderate rime or mixed icing here from the central Arctic coast, extending down with the moisture here as that weakening front slowly pushes eastward, so that's going to bring a chance of some icing, or at least a threat of icing, into the mid-Yukon River Valley across the Kuskokwim Valley on down into Cook Inlet, Kenai Peninsula, Kodiak Island area, but then ending as you get out toward the southwest coast. And from there, taking a look at the jet stream, not much flow here over the Gulf of Alaska. Interior areas, one band of weak southerlies here at 33,000 feet over the east central part of the state, picking up to about 65 knots over the eastern Arctic coast. Then a little bit stronger band of south-southwesterlies here over the western areas ahead of this trough axis over the northern Bering Sea. So 65 to 70 knots with this area. And then northwest winds, kind of a split in the wind flow here coming around with the jet down over the Aleutian. So that kind of weakening and starting to kind of shearing that frontal system apart here with the bulk of moisture going up to the northeast. Westerlies 100 to 105 knots there across the Aleutians. 9,000 feet, 35 knot winds from the southwest here from the Yukon River right on up to the east central Arctic coast. Maybe west up to 35, not too bad though here south of Nunivak Island with light winds just about everywhere else except for the central Aleutians here. A little breezy there, but most of this stronger wind, the wind max here south of the chain. And 3,000 feet, pretty light winds. We have this weakening system over Norton Sound or Norton Bay there, and 20 to 30 knot winds in a narrow area here blowing around that weakening center, and high pressure out over the Bering Sea. Another weak system just south of the central Aleutians, so easterlies 25 knots with that. And a weak low off Kodiak Island, not really producing much in the way of any significant wind speeds. Light winds over the central eastern interior, Gulf of Alaska, and the Panhandle. And consequently, with the light wind conditions, we're not expecting any significant turbulence across the entire forecast area.